Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Camera Tuesday, we're going to talk about drone cameras, an overview. So let's dive right into it. Well, first of all, you have to understand right now is the cool new hip thing. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants it. Every wedding couple wants this. Everyone wants it. At this point in time, you cannot have something that is more hip than this in photography world. Flat out, everybody wants it. On top of that, if you know what you're doing, you can truly get a unique perspective which nobody else can replicate unless they have a drone themselves. And even then, because of the three-dimensional reality, it's not like okay, just stand here, take a photo. Like you must be familiar with if you are going around popular spots in the town, you're like, yeah, stand here to take a photo, or this is the place where it's sunrise and sunset. Drones do not have that kind of limitations. They can be totally free, so you can literally take a photo. You spend time, you explore around the area, spend days or sometimes even months to take one photograph from a drone, and nobody will be able to replicate it. That does happen with drone photography. So it is truly a new perspective if you know what you're doing. So you can create some truly unique shot which people will like, whoa, how the heck did that. However, this is one critical aspect. You may be the best photographer out there, but driving a drone, it's a completely different new skill set. You have to learn the same way you have to learn basically how to drive a car or how to ride a motorcycle basically. So drones have to be controlled much more differently than basically how your camera works, because in camera nowadays most cameras are point and shoot. Now I'm talking about mirrorless and all that. Why? Because most settings are already taken care of. But in drone, not only you have to take care of that camera aspect, you also have to take care of the drone itself. So generally it requires a dedicated person. Now if you are one man band, generally people will not recommend you to have basically drone shots, because there can be immense amount of creativity freedom with a normal camera. You are not like, okay, if I did not have a drone, I cannot do some amazing shot. That's not how things work. So flat out, it's not a necessary thing. So people will generally recommend, if you are a small team, 2-3 photographers for a wedding and all that, then people will take, yeah, now we can afford a basically drone, basically the man hour that it requires to drive it. Then in that sort of scenario, now it can be annoying to flat out harmful if mishandled. It is something very serious. It cannot be just like, ah, it's a camera, somebody will steal it, that's the worst gonna happen. No, a drone, if mishandled, can actually harm a human. That is like a now crash test dummy. A whole standard industry has been created where they are like studying how the heck to handle drone crashes, because yes, enough of people got injured that this is a government level project where every government from every country is like, yeah, we have to look into it, we have to regulate it and all that. It is serious thing. Now generally drones that are, let's say, 100 gram or less, or around 150, it's not going to do too much damage. However, if the blade spilling propeller ends up in your eye, yeah, bye bye eye. So you can understand this. It could go from annoying in terms of noise to harmful where it can actually injure a human. So you have to learn it to use it properly, and I mean bare minimum of 100 hour to flight time. Now you can be like, hey, I'm a photographer, I'm trying to learn this. You can dedicate, like, let's say, half an hour every day, every evening, because, well, drones only fly for half an hour, most of the general consumer drones, and half an hour, that's also pushing it, because that's on the box. When you actually start to fly it, and if there is even a little bit of crosswind, they will end up losing power much more quickly. So again, at least like one full charge every day, and then you do it in multiple scenarios where you like bit foggy, where you have to like, hey, it's like a windy, where it's like, yo, no, this is too much windy. You have to know these things, because if you are just I tried it for like a few hours and then I'm like gonna do a shoot, you could actually annoy someone. At best case scenario, at worst case scenario, you can lose your own drone. So it is a new skill set. You have to learn it same way you learn driving a car or a bike. Now you have to understand this. The marketing around drones, again, company wants to make money, so they sell it. So the marketing around that is generally removes one thing that unless you are in there, you will not understand it, is the noise. And you can see that in like any commercials, like they are going into quiet church, background music is there, but there is no drone music. Why? Because they have to remove it. Drones are noisy as hell, and I mean truly noisy. Like most people have no context of how noisy drones are unless they actually start flying around it. It's like, whoa, why the heck it's so noisy? It happens because even if you are flying a toy drone, drones basically a decibel is directly proportional to how heavy it is. A heavier drone generally has more noise. To compensate for that, people generally install bigger basically blades. The bigger the diameter, the less RPM it has. So you have to do that. But then again, it creates another hazard. Like a flying hazard is like, instead of 5-inch blade, let's say you are using 6.5 inch. That's dangerous. So noise is something very serious, and flat out many places will ban you if using it indoors. Churches have a lot of complaints because of that. Because, again, you may be like having a wedding, but some people like sit in a church. Church is like a kind of public gathering for many people, so people don't want flying drones in there. Like, you have to get their permission, or sometimes they can flat out annihilate, if especially if they have like fragile windows around it. Like, yeah, no, you are not taking a drone indoors. And not to mention, it's very dangerous because you can bounce on something. That's the weird part. Like, oh, it's not gonna crash on a tree and get stuck in a tree. It's gonna hit a wall and bounce back, and during that bounce it could hurt someone. So it is something very serious which people generally do not recommend indoor use unless you are in like a very huge indoor stadium or things of that nature. Generally try to stay away from indoor environments. You may think it's safe, but it's really bad for humans. It's safe for the drones, but bad for human. So use it with caution. Then you have to be mindful around children. Now this is very specific to India because again we have large families, and not to mention in a basic wedding, like very basic, you are expecting around 15 to 30 children. So you can understand a children is not gonna go around is like, oh, it's a drone, I have to stay away. They will like, oh, I'm going to grab it. And again, in many Western scenarios you may have a pets that are doing the same thing. So again, a child is a child. You have to be responsible one. You have to be like, okay, there are children around, I have to stay away from them so they do not get injured. Worst case scenario, they do not get injured. And low battery, it's not like a camera where it's like, oh, I'm gonna keep taking photos, keep taking, okay, it's like I'm gonna reboot it to disable the screen. No, low battery, you have to fix that now. You do not have the luxuries. And not to mention, in low battery state, if you have been flying, the batteries are generally hot. If they get fall from sky even as little as like 10 feet or 20 feet, and you have, let's say, a puncture, tada, a direct fire. Like, lithium batteries are not fire hazard, they are fire itself if the battery is ever punctured. That's why you see any branded one, they will generally have a casing, another casing on top of that, then that casing goes inside a plastic casing, that plastic casing has another outer plastic casing, to make sure at least there is 4 layers of plastic with some air gap, to make sure no matter what happens, no matter which height you crash it from, they will not have a direct penetration. Because again, lithium ion battery will catch on fire. It's not an option, it's a guaranteed, it will catch on fire. So these are something that you do not have like, okay, oh, drone, awesome, amazing, everything. No, you have to be mindful, you have to be thorough. It's a serious thing, you have to take it seriously. Now let's come to the cost aspect, because again, miniature of electronics and all that jazz. Drones are available for surprisingly cheap price. You're like, hey, this is cheap, I can risk ruining 5 or 6 of them. Should you buy them? Absolutely, especially if it's your first one. Buy a cheap one that you can learn. Like, again, try to get something that is a similar size as your final product, and then like you try to learn how to fly this, because generally cheaper ones do not have any automation control. Basically they are dumb, so you have to put a lot of effort, and those are very good for training, learning exercise. And many times you may find it is like, because you have to think differently. I have seen way too many drone footage where like, dude, you can have a gimbal like on hand and just do like this. They're like, awesome. And because not everything requires a drone shot, like unless you have a couple, you have a telephoto lens on a seashore, to frame everything up, you will be like, yeah, the couple becomes too small. So where you can actually show there is a cliff here and you want shooting from mid-air, yeah, you may find that like, yeah, it's not that appealing. That's why it's not like, oh, every Tom, Dick and Harry is jumping into drones. If they have extra manpower, they will do that, but if they don't, it does not matter too much. So be mindful, buy a toy one, learn from it, get at least 100 hours of flight time in different scenarios, from basically cloudy scenarios to windy scenario where like, okay, this much wind is too much, I'm gonna ground my system. And you have to tell this to the client. It has happened where drone ended up crashing into a tree, and voila. Because again, a safe drone is a safe system. Basic drones, in terms of quality, in terms of video drones, they are generally ugly, flat out. You will be actually surprised, like, dude, I spent so much money and why I'm getting footage that literally looks like a last gen mobile camera. Simply sensors are small, inherently small sensors have, well, limitations, and to compensate around it, generally they try to put good lenses, good stabilization. These things does help. Now the biggest advantage between let's say first party manufacturer versus a third party Chinese one is, generally, even if they have the same sensor from same manufacturer, let's say Sony, they will put very different in terms of processor. So the amount of data that you are getting from your sensor, because it's a small sensor, you need much higher bit rate. So you can easily get a good quality footage out of a 8-bit from a full frame. But from a mobile, basically very small sensor, you really want to have much higher bit rate, so you can do much more cross processing to make it more palatable, so to say. And that's why, like, if you buy an expensive one, the bit rate would be much higher. They will try to minimum, don't even go below, let's say 12 or 15 mbps. Yeah, there are drones that are worse than that. And to give you a context, you can easily buy a normal full frame mirrorless camera that will give you around 100 mbps to someone that will give you 400 mbps. So understand this is inherently on a different level. The video footage will never look as good as even a cheap mirrorless system. And that's why, like, in the cinema industry, they have like huge drones which just literally start to fly, basically, full red cameras, because again, there is no way you can get, like, those red camera footage from a tiny sensor. Physics does not allow that. So this is one aspect you have to understand. If it's too cheap, it is a toy. It's a toy. It may be packaged something differently, and it may allow you to, like, bypass the rules, because generally rules are like this. There are categories depending on your country, and each category would be like, hey, if you are below this, let's say 150 grams to 250 grams, you are below this category, you are like nano drones, and nobody will give a damn about it. So, like, do whatever you want, unless you are flying it around airports and security sensitive place. That's an absolute scenario. Other things than that would be like, once you start to go into bigger and bigger drones, more and more registration regulations start to take place. So you have to be mindful, and if you are taking it for video, please try to get a 10-bit recorder. That's way you will actually have a footage that you're like, yeah, it does not look miserable. So this was my brief overview of drone cameras, a whole ecosystem. Hopefully you would have understood some aspects of it, and you are no longer like, oh, drones, awesome. You have to be mindful around this, because this is very serious, and you really don't want to be the person responsible for another banning of the drones and all that jazz. So I hope this video was helpful. You liked it. In those scenarios, please click the like button. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I'd urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me your disappointment, and please leave a comment, because I like to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.